world on fire, thank God for movies. I'm John Negroni. I'm a film critic out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And with me I have Will Ashton.
Oh boy, am I a robot?
Yeah, I've done the robot thing before.
Yeah, I know.
Good the first time.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be a bit or what you were going for, but...
I'm just having fun on Maine. Well, welcome to the second episode of Thank God for Movies, but also the 389th episode of this thing that we have been doing since 2017.
Correct.
I know it's still a little unclear. Today on the show, we're going to talk about two movies. We're going to talk about The Rip and A Testament of Anne Lee. And in addition to that, Will, I know we've been usually doing our film roulette segment, but how about we do something a little different, something a little fun?
Okay, yeah, I'm excited. You told me about it ahead of time, and I got all giddy.
Well, that's the thing, is Will hasn't seen these yet. So if you recall in our last episode, Will pitched an idea. He was like, you know what? Why don't we have a little bit of a competition that we bring to the listeners of the show? We have a new logo, after all. You have this like little film reel that's on fire. You might see it in the thumbnail there. And Will was like, well, I want a name for this thing. You want it to be like a cartoon character, like Hanna-Barbera, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's spin-off potential. You know, we could make a Saturday morning cartoon for it. Mm-hmm. Maybe see what their adventures are. I can't give it a gender yet because I don't know what the names are. I mean, I'm open to any sort of backstory so far.
People wrote in. We got a bunch of entries. I had to narrow it down a little bit. Some of the ones I was like, yeah, some of the ones I think people were just kind of having fun. I let some of those into the narrowed down list though, because I mean, come on. But yeah, we got some contenders. I have my clear favorite. Okay. I think it's the one, and I'll tell you which one it is, Will. And but I want to get your honest, like, okay, but which one sticks out to you, and we'll have to deliberate, I guess, on the prize. Who's the prize winner? You know. Okay. But are you ready to hear the entries?
I'm more than ready. I'm hyped.
Okay. Well, let's not forget Will's own pitch was he wanted to name it Really?
Yeah, really.
Really?
Really.
Yeah. We did get a bunch of real puns. And so anytime you hear me say real at all, it's R-E-E-L, not a single R-E-A-L. So don't worry about that. Funny enough, we didn't really get, nobody did like, oh wait, never mind. Someone did. I just forgot. Oh, okay. I was about to say like nobody did this like really easy pun, but they did. I messed that up. Anyway,
what, like let's start. Real big blank or something? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'll say it when we get to it.
Okay.
But let's start with the first one. This is from Eleanor P. Eleanor's is The Eternal Projection.
Okay.
And then we have another one here. This is from FilmGoblin. Reelie Tho. So kind of playing around with Will's idea a little bit. Y'all are kind of like sharing notes. Yeah.
Okay.
This is from username Cryptid. HotSpool, which I was curious. I was like, HotSpool, like which pun is that? I wasn't sure. We actually didn't get a lot of spool puns. So I think there were a few on the table. Maybe because people are worried spool sounds like cool, and this is a hot kind of logo. Yeah.
Right.
Sarah J. This is one of my favorites. Sarah J's is Cinemaholics.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's funny.
That's pretty good. Mike D's is Real Hot Take. Okay. Pretty good.
So it'd be like real and then like one word hot take.
They did it as 3 different words, but I think we could edit it.
So it would be hot as like the middle name or hot as like the nickname? Like real
Maybe
take.
I like it as the middle name. That actually is pretty nice. Yeah, RHT like for short.
Like hot real take.
Real H take.
Okay.
Scorsese did nothing wrong. Put in fire and Splice.
I like that one. I like that. Yeah.
Josh P. This is one I was expecting people to do. Hot reel.
Oh,
the pun, unfortunately, like doesn't work on like the other layer. Otherwise, it'd be gold. But it's good. It's good. Please stop naming things. That's their actual username.
Oh.
Hotger Reelbert.
Okay, I like that because that's like Hotger. An actual. Because I was thinking a lot of people would send like names like Frank or like things like.
Well,
like,
keep on listening. Well, we ain't done yet. We're not even halfway through. Yeah, Hotger Reelbert. This was one of my favorites for sure. Priya N did Real World Consequences, which that was the one I was saying. I was like, oh, nobody really did like the real world or something like that. But
I like Priya that for a couple of reasons, and one of them's like this is technically because of real world consequences, and
That's true.
real world consequences. So that's a good contender there.
And listening to Thank God for Movies is kind of like watching the real world on MTV.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what we're going for. Kevin put in A Real Pain, which
okay,
sure.
Yeah.
Night Screen did The Projection Demon.
Oh, okay,
this is the best. This is the best name. That's all one word. Said that's the username.
Yeah.
Theirs is just movies.
Okay.
Just movies. I think this is going to be your favorite, Will. From Ash Lee B.
Oh.
Put in Little Ashton. And they emphasized the Ash in Ashton, which I was like, oh, that's pretty nice.
I'm kind of surprised no one's done anything with Ash, considering it's fire. So I appreciate that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, somebody was like, hey, wait, we literally Will Ashton. Nobody did the Will of Ash. That would have been perfect. Josh M put The Snyder Cut. Jasmine R did Spicy Take. Alex D, this is another one of my favorites, Hot Shot. Because Hot Shot feels like, obviously the pun works multiple ways, but also it's like, it makes it sound like a Transformer or something. You know what I mean? Like an 80s kind of like toy. I like that one.
Yeah, I kind of like Hot Shot. That's a good.
It's pretty good.
It works on multiple levels. Yeah.
Olivia T did Firewheel Steve. So there was somebody, they didn't do Frank, but they did do like, let's give them
Steve,
a name.
Yeah.
Steve. And this is the last one. Flamin' Hot Criterio from Madison G.
That's cute.
This is my absolute favorite. I love
Flamin'
this
Hot
one.
Criterio.
Flamin' Hot Criterio. Yeah, I think because it's so dumb. There's like nothing about Cheetos like has anything, but I love it anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the contenders. Do any stick out to you? We're not going to decide today. I think we're gonna put it out, and you and I are gonna have like
maybe we do like a poll, like we can narrow it down and then let.
We could do that. We could. Yeah, we can narrow it down to our favorites. But from now, like, what are a few of your favorites so far? I know you don't have the list in front of you, so let me like send it to you so you can look at them again, since you are reacting to this.
Well, there was one like it was like Fire and Splice, right? I like that one.
Yeah, Fire and Splice. Good.
I liked Little Ash. I liked Hot Shot. I liked some of the other ones.
I just put it in the chat so you can take a look again. Yeah, Eternal Projection, Reelie Tho, HotSpool, Cinemaholics, Real Hot Take, Fire and Splice.
Cinemaholics is fun.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Hotger, Reelbert, Real World Consequences, A Real Pain, Projection Demon, Movies, Little Ashton, The Snyder Cut, Spicy Take, Hot Shot, Firewheel Steve, Flamin' Hot Criteria. So a lot of fun ones in there. And thank you so much, everybody who.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I kind of pitched really on the whim, and I genuinely expected John to be like, we got one submission. And I'd be like, all right, well, that's it.
And it's like, from like, no, like me.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody that submitted. That's really fun. I was thinking about like cinema, like if it was Cinemaholic, it would be like Cine, and then it would be like Ma, and then Holic. Like Cinemaholic. Like
that's pretty
Irish.
Good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like Cinnamon Holic.
Yeah, Cinemaholic.
Cinnamon.
Cine. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is the chat. It was in the real yes. Riverside chat. Not on our personal pages. Okay. All right, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun ones here. I'm really glad everyone had fun with this and got creative. This is fun.
Yep. So thanks again. Hopefully we can do more fun stuff like this. And we are working on it and getting a new email too. Because right now we just have the Cinemaholics podcast at Gmail. So we're going to do a Thank God for Movies one, of course. So in the meantime,
I'm surprised no one did like Fire Walk with Steve.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, maybe. Hey, we have editorial power. Fire Walk with Steve. Man. Okay, well, that's enough fun and games. I think it's time to get a little bit more serious. You know, I understand like movies are supposed to be our escape. That's like the vibe of the show. But I do want to, again, I want to get serious. I want to address The Rip. This is a new movie from Joe Carnahan. And it's on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. They're back together. You know, like Ben Affleck back together with Matt Damon. Same month that he's back together with Jennifer Lopez. Apparently, everything's happening.
Oh, is that official?
And well, there's some hot goss, on the social media they've been seen together. But we'll save that for our sister podcast.
Yeah. Thank God for
God for celebrities.
No, I thought he was like seen with Jennifer Lopez, or sorry, Jennifer Gardner recently. But I thought that was like
That's
maybe like a
J-Lo's the
family
most
outing.
recent I saw.
Oh,
They were
okay,
like
wow.
hugging and kissing at brunch or something.
Oh,
But you know,
I do like that he like there are like two Jennifers that he just like kind of just ping pongs back and forth too.
I did see somebody posted about it and they were just like their friends must be so annoyed with them.
Yeah, I know. That has to be so weird.
But anyway, so Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they star as Miami cops who discover $20 million in a drug stash house. And they spend the rest of the film basically not trusting each other. This movie's fine. It's absolutely fine. Here's the thing, though. This is what really gets me. So Matt Damon went on this podcast and he essentially admitted that Netflix told them to put like this big action sequence in the first 5 minutes because people who watch Netflix are on their phones. And so they wanted the plot reiterated 3 or 4 times in the dialogue because viewers aren't paying attention. And to be honest, like I don't want to relitigate the entire like streaming versus cinema debate here. We've done it so many times, but I do have to point out like when one of the biggest movie stars in the world is openly saying that films are now being constructed for people who are doing their laundry, right? While half watching. People like me, basically. Like we have a problem. Like we have a serious problem because you can feel it in this movie. Like you can feel the compromises being made. I think there is a perfectly decent Joe Carnahan thriller trying to get out of this. You know, he made Narc, you know, which a lot of people said was terrific, genuinely terrific. But this movie is constantly being undermined by this need to over-explain everything. And it's so apparent. Matt Damon's character is, you know, dealing with the stuff with his son, and the film kind of keeps showing him looking at his phone with the kid's picture on it again and again, just in case you missed it, like the first 4 times because you were scrolling through Instagram or something. I do want to point out too, the film is based on a true story, which I didn't know that until after I watched it. I was like, oh wow. The real life, so it was written by Carnahan, but the story is that it's based on something real that happened, like loosely based, obviously.
The beginning of the film has like inspired by a true story, which I always take as like there was cops that investigated a money ring. Like,
well, there was somebody really named like Chris Cassiano. They led a team. They found $24 million. Like that really happened, and his son Jake tragically died of leukemia. So like it is like charting with the story in the film. The film is dedicated to him, I believe. And I think that's lovely. I think that's really nice. My problem is that I don't think that Carnahan can decide here whether he's making like this taut paranoid thriller, which is kind of what the first hour suggests. But then he's like, oh, but now it's like a conventional action movie, which is what the third act becomes. It's the worst part of the movie, in my opinion. And I don't blame Carnahan. I blame the Netflix model. I think that this is one of the most pure showcases of how a Netflix model can kill a movie that could be like pretty good. I will say though, like part of the reason I'm annoyed with it is because like a lot of it does work. Like I think Damon and Affleck here are actually really good. I think they're always good together for the most part. The chemistry between them, it's real history. They've known each other since they were little kids, right? Like they so easily feed off each other. It's a treat that we get to see them on screen. I think like even when they're just like sparring with each other, questioning each other's motives, like it crackles. Like you can really feel it. And I even think like Steven Yeun is put in this really weird position in this movie that is kind of like hard to like, but he's so good as an actor that I think it's still like kind of like low-key really good. I genuinely am like, this character is written terribly, but Yeun sells it really well somehow. And I think part of it too is that the setup is really strong. You know, I think this whole concept of like cops, you know, being trapped in a house and then they're counting money by hand, and they have to go by protocol. Like there are machinations here that are like making sense. Like there's a lot more like logic to the plot. Obviously, a lot of it's silly, but compare it to a movie like Carry On, which like when you watch Carry On, you have to like turn so many things in your brain off in order to get something out of that movie. And I enjoyed that movie because it's so dumb. But this movie actually is like trying to be a little bit above that. Like it's trying to have a little bit more of like a cohesion and a real world logic, you know, real spelled with 2 E's, obviously. And because I can feel like they know someone's going to come for them at any moment. You know, it's like Assault on Precinct 13 territory. I think it's just a great premise. But then this movie completely falls apart for me. It just dissipates. They literally they leave the house and it becomes this ordinary corrupt cop shootout thriller thing. And I'm like thinking to myself, why didn't you just keep the movie in the house? Right? Why didn't you trust the premise? And I think it's because Netflix wanted a car chase. They wanted it to feel like $100 million movie rather than a 70-minute bottle episode, which I think it should have been. Again, though, I think the dedication to Cassiano is really moving, and I think it's affecting and elevates this movie a bit. But I think this is, for me, such a frustrating example of a film that is constantly at war with itself. It's torn between artistic instinct and algorithmic demands. And I just hate to see when the algorithm wins. It always does with Netflix, right? It always does. So, I'm pretty down on this, even though I've admitted it's got good stuff. But Will Ashton, tell me why I'm wrong and you want me to relax.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, similar to you, I thought it was fine. I feel like I was kind of more with it until like a day or two after I saw Shelter, which is like another just sort of decent, action star vehicle. But like that film, as you're sort of suggesting, is more inherently cinematic because it's a film for theaters. And it has it comes together in a way that feels more organic as opposed to this movie where, as you were mentioning, it does feel more compromised and it feels more of a piece to like what Netflix wants versus what is probably best for the story or for the filmmakers or for the producers. In this case, being Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who produced the film through, I think, their studio. I think it's called Actors Equity. Is that what it's called?
I'm looking it up now because I'm not seeing it in the production notes.
I know that part of their deal with Netflix, and I think part of the reason why they were willing to do
Artist Equity.
Artist Equity. Okay. Is that they struck a deal that they made sure everyone got either back end pay or paid up front. So so basically Netflix wouldn't screw them in their weird accounting. And I mean that sounds like they actually, care about, the people they work with and want to make sure that everyone gets what they're owed. And maybe because of that, they felt like, okay, as long as everyone's, because I think, I don't think they go into this expecting, the next Good Will Hunting or even the next Last Duel. I think they're kind of, not slumming it, but Matt Damon's got his Odyssey beard growing already. And Ben's, he's always going through something or another. I feel it's yeah, we're just kind of here to have kind of just fun, make a movie together, just something we can do. Ben Affleck already worked with Joe Carnahan with Smoking Aces. So there's some history there, and I guess they got along or whatever. So as far as the compromise of it goes, I think maybe it bothered me less in this case because I always kind of feel like Joe Carnahan's films sort of feel like they're always sort of a push and pull with his impulses because they're the straight good ones that he does, like The Gray. And I haven't seen Narc, but I heard Narc is good. They're just confined, tight, well written, good showcases for their actors, films that really showcase his talents as a writer and as a director. And then there's the Smoking Aces kind of stuff where it's kind of glib, but and it's Tarantino-ish, but he knows how to make kind of pulpy stuff kind of work. I don't know. I haven't seen a movie since I was 14. It could very well
I feel like Soderbergh does it better. And you know what I mean?
Sure. But I mean, just kind of given what we have, I mean, of the Tarantino knockoffs, I feel like it's a little more agreeable from what I remember. But it's been, half a lifetime since I've seen that film. And then they have stuff A-Team and Boss Level. Stuff that's
I thought A-Team was fun though. I'm not gonna lie.
I kind of like A-Team, but it's it's the most agreeable C+ kind of film you could have.
Yeah.
It's not especially good, but it's it's definitely watchable and it has good chemistry. And Boss Level, I think, is more the weaker end. And I haven't seen some of his more recent stuff that apparently isn't very good, Shadow Force or some movie he made with Zachary Levi recently that I didn't even hear of until I was looking up his resume for this
that
episode.
was Not Without Hope. Yeah, we skipped that one for sure.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's about. I don't know. But
it's a survival thriller. That's all I really know.
Yeah, I think this kind of ends up somewhere in the middle for him. I think you could tell it's a solid script, and I think he works well with these sort of characters. As you mentioned, there's that, and then there's another film of his I haven't seen, but I heard is pretty good called Cop Shop with Gerard Butler.
That was just a few years ago.
Yeah,
that was
good.
Gosh, that was Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler.
Yeah, because Frank Grillo was also in Boss Level, and Boss Level doesn't really work, but you can kind of tell okay, if you got a better project with him and this director, you could probably get something. So it sounds like that was the example.
Wasn't Boss Level a TV movie though? I remember that from the COVID era.
I think it went. I mean, I watched it on Hulu, I thought
Yeah, I
it
think.
had like a VOD release. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I think that was because I definitely didn't watch that, but I remember it kind of was like one of those that kind of
Well,
like got charted over to streaming.
I mean, like similar to what we're saying, like with like the gray and stuff. Like I think he works better when it's like grounded, real environments. And boss level is just like video game logic, so it's just
Yeah,
like whatever. Like it, there's like no stakes to it. It's like a Groundhog Day premise, so it's like it kind of brings out his worst impulses because it's all like glib dialogue and like cussing and like over the top violence, but doesn't have any stakes or any like real like center to it. As opposed to like the gray, where it's like everything feels like tight and rigid, and Liam Neeson's given this really kind of personal, like emotional performance in that, and I feel like this is like I don't know somewhere in between that where it's you do have the solid performances, especially Ben Affleck. I think is really kind of bring it here. Like it's a good character role for him. You can just kind of tell that like they like kind of playing this role. It kind of plays their strengths. I do kind of want them both to just like make an outright like Midnight Run comedy. Like, I kind of feel like that would work better for them at this point.
even something like Wolves, but like with them,
Sure, yeah,
like
exactly,
do the same thing that movie did with Pitt and Clooney. I
yeah,
think would work really well. Especially because Damon obviously was part of the Ocean's crew, and
yeah.
so yeah.
Because I think the first half kind of works better because there's a little more like humor and there's a little bit more like ball busting and stuff. And I feel like that's
Mm.
kind of like what they're better at than, I mean, just, like
Honestly,
obviously
like
when you
because
see Good Will
Carnahan,
Hunting, yeah.
he did the Blacklist, or he did a few episodes of the Blacklist. I honestly think that if you did a kind of like mini series or something, like 10 episodes with Damon and Affleck in some kind of like lighthearted, thriller that takes itself seriously but also has kind of like fun and games, I think it would probably just destroy. Like I think people would love that.
Probably, yeah. I mean, the only thing was just getting them to do, like, I feel like they're both fairly busy,
Yeah.
for
And they love the
justifiable reasons. Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely seem to be more cine guys than TV guys, which I respect. I don't even know if I guess Matt Damon's done like some HBO movies. I don't think either of them have really made the leap to TV yet, other than like guest star appearances and stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, Damon was famously in like 30 Rock, right? Like, but yeah, guest appearance. TV stuff is pretty limited. But I don't think he's a. You know what I like about Damon, honestly? Like, I look, I don't know him as a person. He seems like a guy who just kind of is like what you see is what you get with him. And I always really
oh yeah.
liked how he kind of represents that sort of final DVD movie era, like an actor who's kind of bankable, not as like this A-lister who people will watch his movies no matter what, but this guy who, like, if you see him on a DVD, you're probably likely to buy it back in
Well,
like the 2000s. And he's kind of the last vestige of that. And he's talked about it very publicly of like, this is something that's really hurt actors today
yeah.
because without the DVD business, we just don't get those mid-budget films anymore. We don't get those films that are like 20 to 40 million dollars that don't need to be box office sensations. They just they live life long after the theatrical run, and that's gone because now those movies and those residuals are not helping actors' careers nearly the same way the DVD business did, or the way the DVD business could elevate and propagate like those fun original films. Now he's kind of leaning into the Netflix model because the times have changed, and I just get the impression that he doesn't like that. He probably just
Well,
wishes it was different.
yeah. I mean, because I think you're alluding to like his Hot Ones appearance where he talks about
Yes.
this. Yeah, and yeah, that's a great
Infamous.
clip. And it's just like funny that he's able to speak so eloquently about like the state of the injury and stuff while like eating like increasingly
Yeah.
hotter chicken wings. But yeah, no, I mean, and that also, kind of sums up the state of celebrity culture as it is as well in a way. But yeah, no, I agree. I think you can definitely tell like there's a version of this film that comes out in like 2006, especially with Joe Carnahan directing and writing, that, like is probably like an adequate theatrical run, but like does well on DVD and like kind of gets those solid residuals and stuff. And I think that was part of the reason they even went to Netflix is that like they kind of know like, okay, this isn't like us bringing our A game necessarily, but like if you see us on the thumbnail together, a lot of people are probably going to watch at least 10 minutes of it. And if we can like promise our crew and cast that like they can get money for it guaranteed and they're not going to get screwed over by Netflix, and it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And I get that. But yeah, at the same time, it does feel like they have to kind of like sacrifice the inherent quality of this film overall because it's not going to be the best version of itself. It's going to be a more adequate version of itself. And yeah, I mean, it's, disheartening to be sure, and definitely not the the way to celebrate movies as it were on this podcast. Thank God for movies. But yeah, I at the same time, I feel like I'm maybe a little more positive than you are, just because like it's uh, it's serviceable. Like, I don't think it's terrible. Like, I'm not mad I saw it or anything. I can share your frustrations with it. But I also feel like at the same time, there are so many of these disposable Netflix films that are much worse and just feel like absolute nothing. And this has, like you said before, like, there's good acting, there's some good set pieces, there is some strong action beats, there is some snappy dialogue. There's like stuff I can recommend to this film.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I don't have to feel like I am compromising and being like, it's pretty good for a Netflix movie. It's like a solid Netflix film. It's like, I look at it mostly as like, as far as Netflix movies go, it does what you want it to do. It'll serve you for a nice afternoon at home, especially, and that's part of the reason why we're covering it, is that like, I got snowed in this weekend. I couldn't go to the movies. I couldn't go see 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, as I would prefer to see. So having this on Netflix, was a good compromise. It's like, okay, fine. This does the trick. It's not the best thing I can do. It's not the best thing I can watch on Netflix even, but like it's a fine compromise for everybody, myself included.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think you kind of nailed it in the sense that pretty good for a Netflix movie can be taken, obviously it's pretty negative, but at the same time, it's for, if you watch a lot of these disposable movies, I mean, obviously I think that's why I'm being harsh on it, is because it is kind of like above that. And so I'm not as forgiving. And I think, again, it's like,
sure,
most of my negativity is around, I think, taking things from a movie that like could have been much better and basically purposefully making it worse in order to appeal to the lowest common denominator, or to appeal to the people who don't even want to like it. And there's just like I think my frustration around that metatextual thing is like leaking into, me being all the more frustrated with the elements in this movie that I just think are unforced errors. And
yeah.
So,
well,
yeah, but I agree. Like, I'm watching this movie. I'm having a rip roaring time. Look at me go. I wasn't frowning. I think like toward the end I was checked out because I was like, oh my gosh, like just end the movie. Like you botched this. Like they do the big reveal and all that stuff, and like it's fairly predictable. Like I don't think a ton of people are probably going to be like, whoa, like where did
it's
the whole time,
It's predictable to a point, but they like add so many twists that's like, well, I don't know if I fully saw this coming just because it's so silly. Like, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I really expect the movie to get this goofy on me by this point, but I don't know. I don't mind that necessarily. I think it's like, it kind of adds, like you said, like, I feel like by the time you're not sequestered to the house, you're kind of like, okay, like, what are we really doing here? That was kind of like where the tension was building. That's where we were bottled up. Like, what are you going to do here? And so like the fact that they kind of go silly with it is fine with me, just because I'm like, okay, well, there's still some entertainment value to be milked from this. It just has to be in a different way, which is fine. Yeah, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about with Shelter, because that's like another film where like the tension is kind of sequestered to this one location and like, all this stuff. It feels like kind of an interesting yin and yang, but also very similar kind of films. But
I did miss my screening for Shelter. I missed my screening for that. I missed my screening for Send Help. I had 2 opportunities to see Send Help, and I wasn't able to see them. I was so ready to see Send Help too. I'm going to see it in theaters.
I was going to say, yeah, Send Help and Shelter probably would make a good double feature as well, because they're both about people on an island, basically, in different respects. Yeah, so.
I will say part of the reason too is that I've been doing more TV coverage this month, because it's January. So I've been kind of like settling into, we're finishing up Fallout TV recaps, and also not finishing up, but Night of the Seven Kingdoms just got started. And that show is so fun. And
really?
There's also Bridgerton just came out yesterday, Will Ashton. And how am I supposed to watch movies when Bridgerton is out? But anyway, let's keep talking about the rip, but responding to what our friends have to say about the movie, if you're down.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm out of the loop on TV, but I don't know. I also don't know if I have anything else to really add to the rip, other than just like, I agree with you that like, I think when you see Matt Damon, at least there's a sort of consistency that you're alluding to, where it's like, if you happen upon a DVD of Matt Damon's film, it's like not guaranteed to be good, but it's more likely to be at least decent because you expect something, you trust him in a way like you wouldn't trust like your average movie star. Not even like Ben Affleck, you can really trust that way because man, he's made some stinkers.
That's true. That's true.
And I love the guy, but he's made some stinkers, you know. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and you know, this doesn't quite match up that level, but at the same time, it's kind of like what I expect from him as well. It's like, you know, as far as January slop goes, it's appeasable.
I you know, since you brought it up, I do hope you at some point give Fallout a chance. I think Fallout is really good television. It's for the production design alone, there's like nothing else like it out right now where it's just so pretty. Like the world that they've created there, it's really good storytelling too. But I know you're busy. You're busy at the movies.
Well, it's that, and I don't play video games, and I don't watch a lot of TV.
I think the show really works, even if you don't have the games as context. Basically, everyone I know who's gone into it fresh has been, if anything, like interested in the games because it's such a fully realized world in its own right. Like you don't need like the knowledge of how the game stuff works to get something out of it. For the same reason, I think the games took off and are as popular as they are.
I will say, like, and this is not a matter of quality, just as like an outsider. I think it sounds more interesting than like The Last of Us, which I'm sure is a fine show, but like everything I've heard about is just like, oh, it's so accurate to the games. And it's like, well, why don't I just play the games then? Like, it sounds like I can be involved with the narrative there, you know, in a way that, you know, at least with Fallout, it's like actually amplifying what people like about the games, but in what you're suggesting is a more cinematic or TV friendly way. So
it's funny you bring that up though, because I feel like Last of Us, the best parts of that show are when it completely deviates from the games. You know, there's whole episodes that it just does its own thing. And Last of Us, it's like way better than when they're trying to be more faithful.
Like the Nick Offerman episode, you mean?
Yeah, I mean that's an episode I think anybody should just watch. Like you don't need to watch any of the rest of season 1. Like if you're not sure about it, you could just watch that episode and it's just like its own thing. And it's really fun to watch. But anyway, let's get back to the rant. This is from our friend of the show, Corey Everett. And Corey gave the rip 1.5 stars. He said, "What the F happened to you guys? Your ass used to be beautiful. Not since Righteous Kill has an iconic screen duo flushed all goodwill down the toilet with absolute direct-to-video direct." I think this is the most negative of our friends of the show. I don't think I saw anybody else have fewer than that. But yeah, I think Corey's a little bit like going through what I was going through during that third act.
I'll say this, like, I've heard some comparisons to Righteous Kill. I don't know if I fully agree, in part because, well, for Righteous Kill was pretty awful. And I don't think this movie is awful necessarily. But the other thing is that, like, that was like the reheated nachos of Heat. No pun intended with the reheat. But, you know, Ben and Matt came up together. Like, the part of the appeal with, like, Righteous Kill was, like, you remember when these two actors got together? We're going to do that again. But it's like, okay, but this time it sucks. But, like, you know, I get what you're, I get the comparison because, like, they're back together. But it's like, well, there was, like, The Last Duel and stuff, like, you know, and that they were actually, like, writing as well. Like, that felt like the full, like, they were back. But no one saw that movie, unfortunately, even though it was good. But, yeah, I get what you're saying in that respect where it's like...
People watched Air.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Air. That's what I mean. It doesn't feel like it's, like, as eventful. Like, even Righteous Kill, like, kind of felt like, oh, they haven't done a movie since Heat. You know, and that was like a memento, you know, experience. And this was like more like, yeah, I kind of expect Ben and Matt to do a movie together. You know, it's like they're friends.
They're buddies. Yeah. It's like people expect John and Will to do a podcast together.
Yeah.
If they don't. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. But I will say, like, of their collaborations, this is, like, I guess is their weakest. Just because, like, even Air was like a little better than this.
Yeah. I like Air a good bit. That's a fun movie.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right. Well, friend of the show, Aaron Dicer, he gave this one. He was definitely more positive. He gave it 3.5 stars, which I think feels just about right. I think for me, if it's between like, it's around 3 stars, 3.5. Like, there's good stuff here. He said, "I love it when Ben and Matt work together. It just feels right. And this movie just feels right. It's not out to redefine anything, but it's a solid watch." Did he just say it was a solid watch? Yes, I did. I don't know if that's in reference to something, but yeah, that's a little bit more positive. Clint Worthington, friend of the show, gave it 3.5 stars as well. And Clint said,
"Is solid watch like a reference to like End of Watch or something?"
Maybe,
like
maybe.
I don't know. Is that what he's comparing it to?
Not sure. He's too smart for us. Clint said, "F, Thank you, Joe Carnahan, for giving our Boston boys some Miami mayhem to bromance their way through. After Shadow Force, I was really, really worried about you. Yes, this is propaganda through and through. Damon's character literally has tattoos on his knuckles, confirming his moral righteousness in a way that isn't as subversive as I think Carnahan's script thinks it is. But Affleck and Damon have that childhood chemistry. The supporting cast does Yaman's work. Adkins, fun in a non-action role. Yun, intensely desperate. Taylor, sorely underutilized. And the single location vibes offer a nice little twist of tension. I'll admit to being taken along the script's whodunit swings and roundabouts, even as it climaxes in a dim shootout that falls victim to the usual Netflix muck. All told, not a bad way to spend a lazy Saturday morning. I agree with a lot of this. I do think like it's interesting with the Tiana Taylor stuff, just because like, you know, she was on SNL, I think one battle after another, obviously like was such a boon, you know, for her, like the Oscar nomination. I do think it's weird though that like in that episode of SNL, like the rip never gets brought up. Like they didn't do anything with it. They just kind of stuck to one battle after another, which I was surprised because I was like, this is the thing that's like out, right? Like that I assume is kind of like bolstering this movement for her on the circuit. But you know,
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even know she was in the film until I pressed play.
That's
so.
Same here. I mean, like, she's not in it much, to be fair. She is, as Clint says here, underutilized, but
I do have to make an editorial note to our friend Clint, though. It's the tattoos weren't on the knuckles; they were on like the palm, on like the side by the thumb. They weren't like.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even catch that
because there's too many letters for the knuckles. So it was like 5 or something, so it couldn't be knuckle tats.
I do think like the propaganda is legitimate in this. I kind of left that out of my kind of initial impressions, just because I will admit, like, it was kind of tricky to watch this movie, like, in the wake of, you know, quote unquote law enforcement, like, literally executing someone, 2 people now in Minneapolis. And so, like, watching this movie, which is playing around with this idea of, like, who can you trust? Some of that was rattling in my brain, to be sure. You know, I think it's, like, part of it's bad timing. Part of it, too, is, like, we keep getting movies like this. Even, I sometimes I wonder, like, these people want to, like, read the room at all in terms of, like, how people are feeling. But to be fair, I think most people, like most normies, aren't thinking about that. They're not like in that same zone of filtering everything through the concept of, you know, propaganda. And so like movies that are trying to normalize police being these like, you know, really tough people who always make the right decisions and you can trust them. But then this movie's also playing around with, but some of them are bad, but we have to separate it, right? And it's a complicated thing. I don't think we need to get into it for the rip of all movies.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a movie, I think, that's all that interested in that aspect of itself anyway.
Yeah, I think for the average person, it's just like, it's like an episode of NCIS, but with Ben and Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but like, you know, not to be talking down to the normies or anything, but yeah, no, it was something that crossed my mind as well. But I'm like, compared to like something like a Mark Wahlberg film where it feels more like, I mean, not to like get into like each actor's political beliefs, but like you watch like a film like he does with Peter Berg and it kind of feels more celebratory of the police, whereas this movie feels like inherently more questioning of like what the value is of like these law enforcement. I don't think it really
romanticize like what they're doing. They're in plain clothes and they seem miserable. So
but like I don't know. I think part of the reason they didn't like delay it or anything is that like the meat of the film is basically like, can we even trust cops at this point? And, you know, like that's kind of like the questions that it's asking. So it's like more, you know, it's not really food for thought because it's like fast food for thought.
Yeah,
it's like you're thinking about while eating McDonald's and it's like, well, that was tasty.
Isaac Feldberg, friend of the show, similar to Corey on this one, Corey Everett, he gave it 2 stars. And he put, why is this set in Miami? Ben and Matt, Boston needs you. I was thinking that too. I was like, why is this Miami? I guess because they want to do the cartels and all that stuff.
I think so. And I think it's because they wanted to show, because Ben and Matt can speak Spanish. So I
and they did it well.
I figured it was part of that was the reason. It's just like, we speak Spanish. And I'm sure Ben was like, you know, he might have been single at this point. So he might have been looking for some local, you know.
Local babes.
Yeah.
In front of the show, Kristen Lopez gave it 2.5 stars, so a little bit higher, but still pretty low. Kristen said, Joe Carnahan has directed some of my favorite movies, particularly Smokin' Aces and Stretch, though The Rip is far from his best. It's nowhere near his worst. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, no surprise, have a great chemistry as 2 cops trying to out-manipulate each other in a noirish tale of deceit heavily inspired by Treasure of the Sierra Madre. The rest of the characters lack any type of real depth. Poor Teyana Taylor, but there's enough action and intrigue to keep you invested through the runtime. I think saying it's heavily inspired by Treasure of the Sierra Madre when I think it is kind of based on a true story. I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit of a, stretch not to be in, yeah.
I literally saw Treasure of the Sierra Madre for the first time this month, and I didn't even think about Treasure of the Sierra Madre watching this film. Like, it didn't even cross my mind to think about. I think those are two very separate films.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it because I was like, wait, it did make me pause. But
other
that's
than
the last one.
Other than just the greed, and then some characters being like, maybe I should take that money, but that's saying
very different from heavily inspired.
Yeah, that's like saying you thought about There'll Be Blood watching this. It's like, okay, they're both movies, sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and Chris Evangelista saw this as well, but no stars, no heart, no review. What is Chris thinking? Who knows? Not me.
Well, there are at least two. There are at least 2 stars in this movie.
Oh, good point. There's multiple.
Yeah, I would say
Kyle Chandler just like an everyday guy to you.
I will say, and not well, we're towards the end of the review, so maybe mild spoiler. I did see Kyle Chandler cast, and it's like, well, he hasn't been in the movie in a while. So it's definitely something's up with him. Just weird.
Yeah, that was a little. I think were you the one who was like, "Hey, why did they cast Ben Affleck's brother in this as Casey Affleck?" And I think, because it just makes the ending a little bit too obvious.
Maybe.
Well, I thought, but also I think they were trying to go for the surprise factor of it's his brother.
Yeah, I thought you were implying it made the beginning too obvious.
Well, that was my initial thought, and then I was like, I wonder too if it was they thought that it would be a little bit too obvious that he comes into play at the end of the movie somehow. But anyway,
yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
Other thing I guess we could mention is there's a cute little dog in this. It's not the best police dog, not very well trained, but
Will apparently didn't like this dog that much because he was saying in the group chat I wish it had been the dog who had done it, who'd been behind everything.
What happened was,
poor dog, you threw the dog under the bus.
This movie has so many double and triple and quadruple crosses that there was a part of me was just really dive into it and just have the dog, have
a John Carpenter.
Right. Just have a Sepatone, because they always do these Sepatone flashbacks. Just do that with a dog peeing on the wall and being like, he always pees where there's money. And it's like he's behind it the whole time, talking on the phone with Kyle Chandler, and sorry, that might have been a whatever. If you got this far and you haven't seen the film, I apologize if I spoiled anything, but there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who probably thought it was the dog. Okay, well, Ashton, real quick, real with 2 E's, obviously. 2 E's, 2 L's, why not? 143 reviews counted on Rotten Tomatoes. What's your guess for the Rotten Tomato score?
It's a good question. I don't know. I feel like most people are kind of in the 3 out of 5 territory, as we seem to be. And it's which would make it mostly positive. But I don't think everyone's loving it. I think a lot of people are kind of like you, where it's just is this the best we can do with our boys, Matt and Ben? So I'm gonna say it's a 74%.
It's a little higher. It's 80%. I probably would have guessed around the same as you, if not lower to 70 is probably where I would have landed. But yeah, I think to what you're saying, most people are kind of giving this one a pass. You obviously have your Corey Everett's, your Kristen Lopez is they're definitely a little bit more negative, but I guess people maybe they're giving it the old January bump of for January, it's not that bad. And it's been out for 2 weeks now. I think more critics have seen it and all that stuff too. The popcorn meter, the audience score rather, we have 1,000+ ratings. You have a guess for that one?
I imagine most people watching on Netflix are more agreeable and probably are just hey, it's fun. I was doing laundry, so I was able to follow the movie okay. So I'm going to say they're probably 85%.
64%.
Oh, I was wrong. Okay, that's interesting.
I would not have. I did not expect that. I would have flipped this completely.
Yeah.
64 for critics, 80 if you put the numbers in front of me. But yeah, sure enough. I don't know what's going on there. I'm baffled. I didn't look at any of the stuff that people are saying, but I guess maybe similarly, people are looking at it and saying hey, is this the best we can do with Ben? I don't know. Okay, so let's move on though. We got another movie to talk about before we say goodbye, and that is The Testament of Ann Lee. This is the new film from Mona Fastvold. She co-wrote The Brutalist with her partner, Brady Corbet, my arch nemesis in real life. That's a real thing. Brady and I are not friends. We do not like each other. We had a run-in at a screening. It's podcast lore, if you're curious about that. Will's giving me this look, and he's saying, John, you're embellishing a little bit here, like you always do.
You never tell me what the story was, so I don't know what happened.
It happened in 2018 at the Vox Lux screening, and we had an altercation. It wasn't physical, like nobody hurt anybody, but anyway, so they've teamed up again here, and I'm removing this aspect. I'm gonna judge this movie fairly, Wash. I'm not gonna let
the Brutalist, so I mean,
I did like the. You're right. Yeah. Thank you. You know what? Okay.
Were there words even exchanged in this thing, or is it just like bad looks? I don't get what's going on here.
I think Will. Everything's a mystery, and it's not like The Rip. You're not going to get your answers. For all you know, the dog did it, and the dog is behind why Brady and I can't be in the same room together, according to the San Francisco police. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, she is directing the film. He's co-writing. It's about a real person, Ann Lee, who founded the Shakers in the 18th century. This is also kind of like a quasi-musical, sort of. It's sort of a musical in the way that people kind of have these religious seizures and they're speaking in tongues, if you want to call that a music. I mean, there are musical set pieces, let's say that. But yeah, I don't think I'm trying to be careful because people are like, cool, it's like Wicked, it's like Mamma Mia. It's like no.
Well, there are like actual musical numbers in the film. It's not just like shaker sequences. Like they're like and Amanda Seyfried does sing like a song, like original songs in the film. So I would say it's a musical, but yeah, it's not like a traditional musical. It's more of an art house musical. Yeah.
You mentioned her already, but Amanda Seyfried, who does play Ann Lee, she is extraordinary in this. I think that she is doing something that is physically and emotionally exhausting, right? She gives birth like 4 times in this movie. All the babies die, though. We have scenes of her being beaten by mobs. And I'm sorry, these aren't spoilers with the baby stuff, especially because that's all very early in the film. She has to like shake and convulse. And again, these like ecstatic worship sequences, unlike anything I've seen in cinema that past year. I don't think there's anything quite like it, right? So we don't have like the jazz hands or the tap dancing, sure, whatever. But it's like people trembling and moaning and collapsing into these trance states. I think it's really riveting. Like I was so mesmerized by it. And Seyfried, she got like 15-minute standing ovation when this premiered at Venice, I think I saw. And that's pretty long. That's longer than a lot of musical numbers, right? So, but this is important. This is important. So the film is 2 hours and 17 minutes long, and it is covering about 40 odd years of history. There's a lot of voiceover narration from Thomas and Mackenzie, kind of explaining things that the images honestly are like already showing you. And about an hour and 3/4 in, I started thinking to myself, okay, like I get what you're doing. I understand it. I admire the craft, but I am not feeling this the way I think that I'm supposed to. I think the problem is that Fastvold is trying to do 2 things at once that don't quite sit together for me. On one hand, she wants to make this intimate portrait of a woman who's been traumatized by forced marriage and dead babies and finds liberation through religious ecstasy and celibacy. And I think that is just fascinating psychological territory. But on the other hand, she wants to make an epic about the founding of the Shakers and their persecution in early America, how they built this utopian community. And the film keeps lurching between these 2 modes. And I think Ann Lee herself starts to disappear into the background of her own story. And I think when this works, it does work brilliantly. I think it's in those worship sequences. We have Celia Ralston Hall did the choreography, and even calling it choreography is weird because it's not conventional like you would think when you think choreography. The bodies are in this like really, again, ecstatic motion, a motion that doesn't really make sense when you see it, but it makes sense probably in the moment. I believe they shot this in 70 millimeter. I'd have to double check that, right?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has this like tactile, visceral quality. I could see it even like I watched it on a screener, which I imagine like this is one of those like I really wish I'm beating myself over the head for not seeing this in a theater because cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. You have these like Dutch master paintings coming to life. Daniel Blumberg's score is so good in this. I believe he won the Oscar for The Brutalist too, if I'm remembering correctly. And I think it's just as good as that movie in terms of the score. It's like percussive. It's very hypnotic. It actually uses real shaker hymns I saw, but it kind of like takes the real stuff and makes it sound more like strange and otherworldly, which I think is great. But again, it's just the narration. Like the narration is killing me. I think Thomasin McKenzie is doing what she can, but like it just felt like every 10 minutes somebody is explaining all the historical context or telling us what we're about to see or what we've just seen. And it's so unnecessary. Just trust your images. You've got Amanda Seyfried literally shaking the sins out of her body. We do not need someone telling us that she's experiencing spiritual transcendence. Like we can see that she's doing that. And I think the structure also gets like increasingly episodic as it goes on. I think the first hour, when it's focused on Anne's trauma, her discovery of the Wardley Society, her prison revelation, like it's really gripping. It's properly gripping. But once they get to America, it kind of just becomes this like historical survey, right? It's like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then the Revolutionary War sure complicated things, and then they face persecution again. And it's like, you're learning things, which is cool, I guess, but like, I was not emotionally in it anymore. And I think the other problem, and I do hate to say this because Seyfried is working so hard in this, but her Manchester accent is all over the place. Like sometimes it's there, and like other times it's like, and I know it was just kind of like pulling out every once in a while. And I think if you're making a film this committed to like historical verisimilitude and stuff like that, that matters to me. I think it pulls you out. But this is still a film, like I'm being harsh, but I think I'm really glad this film exists. I think it's audacious in a way that I respect. I think it's formally daring. It's about something. I think Seyfried genuinely gives one of the year's best performances. I think like when she's on screen doing those worship scenes, like I couldn't look away, right? Like there's real power here. There's real conviction. I think Fastvold clearly believes in this material. Like she's not being ironic or condescending about religious faith, which I think is really hard to pull off in a movie like this, and also kind of refreshing the way that she handles that balance. I just wish it was tighter. I wish somebody had said, like, do we need all of this? Like, do we need to cover every year of her life? Can we trust the audience to fill in some gaps? Because I think there's like genuinely like a great movie, like 100-minute movie inside this 137-minute movie. And I think occasionally like you get glimpses of it and what it could be. So I would call it a noble failure, but I'm not sure failure is the right word. Like it's more like it's reaching for something transcendent and only occasionally achieving it, you know, which I guess is kind of appropriate about a film that's about religious experience, right? Like sometimes you do get the religious ecstasy. Sometimes you're just kind of like, you know, like shaking in your seat. I don't know. That metaphor fell apart at the end there, but what do you think? I have a feeling you like this one more than me.
Yeah, I think we talked about it during one of the film roulettes or something or another. I do like the film. I do think it's not, like I went into it and I unfortunately, like you, only got to watch it via screener. I want to see in theaters. It's now finally playing theatrically near me, but as I mentioned in our review of The Rip, I am snowbound this weekend rather. So I haven't had many chances to go to the theater outside of the occasional press screening. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm going off of what I watched, you know, in the confinement in my home. And so I feel like I haven't gotten the full experience because like I got to see, you know, the Brutalist on the big screen, and I felt like that really amplified the experience. But I guess similar to the Brutalist, and obviously I know they're not the different, they switch directing duties, but you know, they're both collaborative. I think this movie, as you're sort of alluding to, has the greater highs at the beginning of the film as opposed to at the end. And that's something, you know, that's a common complaint lodged against the Brutalist. And I can respect that, you know, the first part being stronger than the second part. However, I think to what you're saying, though, I do think that is intentional. The idea of like what kind of makes a religious group of people, not just one fanatical person's, you know, delusion, but like an actual group. And I feel like this movie charts that really well. Like the idea of like you at the beginning, you do follow Anne Lee because it is initially kind of more just her like kind of reckoning with like these traumas and these hardships and like having this very exotic experience and like feeling she's connected to God and all this stuff. And, you know, she's found all these people who believe it or like are connected to it, but still sort of ostracized to their little group. And it's not really until the like later half of the film that you get to see people really believing in her vision in a grand sense. And I feel like that's where it makes sense for the narrative. I don't think she like leaves the center of the story, but I think the other characters become more central because it becomes more about what the religion is. And it's not just one person. It's all these people coming together and doing this thing. So I think that structure of it makes sense to me. I could agree with you in the sense that like I don't think the narration amplifies the story. I think it does well enough to tell that it doesn't need, or to show that it doesn't need to tell, rather. But I think, it's undeniable Amanda Seyfried is giving an astonishing performance in this, and it's so demanding, and it's so vulnerable, and it's so exasperating for her, and it just feels, obviously it's showy, but it's like a very intuitive and fearless performance in a way that you really see how much he's committed to this vision and how much he's willing to bring Ann Lee's plight in a dramatically compelling way, and it's completely sincere. There's no real irony or anything, as you were mentioning to it. It does feel very like you have to, much like the people in this Shakers community, believe in the vision or not, and I think the movie, very much is trusting its audience to go with it. And if it doesn't, then so be it. And yeah, I was quite a fan of it. I agree with you. I don't think it's quite great. I think it doesn't quite land the ending as much as it should. I think part of it is just that for both films, I think they kind of start off with these sort of grander, epic ambitions, and they start to kind of become a little bit more conventional, I think, towards the end, when they feel like they have to kind of like land the ship. And I feel like that hurts more than helps these films. Like I kind of want them to just fully, embrace their sort of experimental and impassioned story. I don't know, I just feel like they haven't quite landed their respective endings. But I will say I do love like Brady Corbett's previous films, and I think he's quite an exceptional director, and I love his work as a director at this moment, and I think he's become a very strong co-writer and producer. And I think especially as a producer, both these films, the production values, considering that they think they're both $10 million productions, is insane to me. Like I think the world that they are able to create, the realness and the expansiveness of it for a fairly limited budget just really puts, not to point fingers, but your average 300 million Marvel movie to shame. Like the fact they're able to pull this off with like not even 1/16 of the budget of those films, and
oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, because it looks like it's at least 50 million, right?
Yeah,
and so the fact that it's a fraction of that is insane,
right?
Yeah, I think echoing what you were talking about with Seyfried and how it's a demanding role, I think it's kind of what, like, she did get a Critics' Choice nomination. So my folks, we gave her a nomination for Best Actress, and she did get nominated for Golden Globe. Totally shut out. Like the whole movie was shut out at the Oscars. I think that I wasn't expecting this. Like once I saw it, I wasn't expecting it to get like Best Picture nom. I was like maybe, but like kind of a long shot. Seyfried getting shut out was a big surprise for me, especially because like Kate Hudson for Song Sung Blue, I haven't seen the movie, but I heard the movie is terrible. And so I'm like kind of like, what the heck happened here? Right. Like, I do think everybody else here, like I get it. I get Emma Stone. But at the same time, like Emma Stone has been nominated, has won like multiple times now. I'm like, what are we doing? Like Amanda Seyfried gave a great performance here. And, like obviously like I have a soft spot for Rose Byrne being nominated. And I think Jessie Buckley, even though Hamnet didn't work for me, but Jessie Buckley was great. I think she deserves that nomination. And I think Renata Reinsve is a kind of like a no-brainer. But Kate Hudson, I'm sorry. Like no beef with Kate, but like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Song Sung Blue yet. It seemed like in the weeks leading up to the Oscar nominations that the writing was on the wall that Kate was going to get favored. Just seems like the Academy just kind of likes that more safe, traditional kind of film as opposed to something like this. It's a little bit more audacious. And I don't know. I really honestly, as much as I like the fact that a big studio like Searchlight picked it up, I feel like they kind of screwed up the release of this. Like I think they didn't really market it as well as they could have, and I think they released it really at like the worst possible time, just in terms of like, in the midst of a nationwide snowstorm and stuff. Like I want to see this movie in theaters again, and it's like, a lot of people I know wanted to see it theatrically, and they just couldn't because it either wasn't available, when the lists were coming out, or now it's like they're so bound. So. Yeah, I was a little disheartened with the release strategy. I feel like someone like A24 probably would have maybe handled it a little bit better. Not to say
I don't disagree with you, but because I've heard of this thrown around a lot. But I do think in Searchlight's defense, they did premiere it at Venice, which was the smart play, for main competition.
Acquired
and then
it, I think, from after Venice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they gave this thing the limited 70mm release on Christmas Day, which I do think like that's prime awards positioning. To what you're saying, it's like they could have expected that when this thing goes wide in January, that it would be during a time when a lot of the country can't go to the theater. I do think that they secured a slot for streaming on Hulu, which I think was smart for like when you're expecting the movie to be nominated, then like that makes sense. And I mean, it did get like really strong reviews. It got some awards nominations. So like, I think part of the reason like maybe we're perceiving the handling of the release as the issue, I think is when it comes down to it, it has niche appeal. It's really long. It's a musical about celibate religious ecstatics. Like it was never going to, I think, be an easy thing to sell regardless of the marketing. And I think especially with like how difficult the subject matter is and the timing when you're releasing this against major holiday blockbusters, like I get it. I totally get it. I also think that you could argue that this thing is still in the brutalist shadow. It's coming pretty soon after like this big Oscar winning film. It created these impossible expectations. So I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm not feeling like it's that much of a thing. I think Searchlight was in a really tough spot with this.
Yeah, you're probably more fair. I think I just maybe feel a little disgruntled that something like this gets slighted. Not that I even think it's like on par with the Brutalist, which I think was my favorite film of that year. But I do really like it, and I like seeing movies like this, and I love the audaciousness of this, and I want these two to keep making movies like this. I think it's really cool that they have these ambitions and stuff, and they want to pull out these grand, very, very cinematic stories at a time when, like, we're talking about, like, stuff like The Rip is fighting for our attention, and so, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. I really like this surrounding cast too. We haven't talked about them too much, but yeah, I think Thomas and Mackenzie's like okay in this, but I really think like Lewis Pullman, Stacey Martin, Christopher Abbott, Tim Blake Nelson. I mean, this is a really good cast. I think it's not stunt casting at all. I think Chris Abbott, like he can play this kind of like dirtbag pretty easily. I like how the movie handles him too. Like it gets to a certain point and the movie is like, it treats like the fate of his character, I think in a way that just feels real and also like really unsettling at the same time. And yeah, I can't say enough about Lewis Pullman. I think that he's kind of like one of the characters who I think is the glue for the movie.
Yeah,
like I don't think the movie quite works without him at all.
Yeah. He's probably outside of Van Lee, the most fascinating character in the film. What's kind of driving him, what's making him devote himself to his sister and stuff is really fascinating and thoughtful and interesting material. And I will echo as well the Tim Blake Nelson thing. I think I knew it was
in the
him.
Movie like in this cinematic universe. I think
he's
he
like,
do it.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the fact that they're both in Marvel movies, Lewis Pullman and
I just think like his character, you could do a whole movie with his character.
Yeah.
Set in this,
I got you. Okay. But Tim Blake Nelson, like his voice is totally different. He's like he's recognizable, but like it takes you a minute to really process like, oh, that's Tim Blake Nelson. He's like, it's a totally different performance from him. And he's already an actor I love dearly and think he's so versatile as begins. So yeah, I thought he was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I love Christopher Abbott as well. I think this is, not necessarily new territory for him, as you mentioned. I think he has kind of built a cinematic reputation of playing scum bum boyfriends or husbands in this case.
I was thinking mostly of like his character from The World to Come. With,
which is the same director.
Catherine Waterston. Yeah.
Same director, so that makes sense, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at what our friends have to say about this film, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Let's see. Ryan Oliver, friend of the show, gave it 2.5 stars. Ryan's not into this one. He said, can't deny that there are individual sequences that are breathtaking, but this is about as substantial as the Joseph Smith episode of South Park. At one moment where the rich backer sings and falls with his finger felt like an SP gag, while being 85% longer and 85% less enjoyable. Seyfried is really something, but the film does her no favors by presenting the catalyst for her celibacy, which are horrors I can't fathom, in a montage and then stonewalling us from that emotion for the rest of the running time. pretty pointed criticism here. I can kind of see what he's saying. I didn't feel it in the moment. Like, I didn't feel like that's what the movie was necessarily doing, but I can see why he had this take.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great episode of South Park, but I think they're doing different things necessarily. I don't know if I would say it's just that.
Oh, well, it's Letterboxd. We got to have fun. We got to,
Sure, yeah.
Let's take a look. Matt Donato also gave it 2.5 stars. A friend of the show, Matt Donato, he said, Mona Fastvold's direction is compelling, but the Testament of Ann Lee meanders more than it bowls you over. Amanda Seyfried leads as a determined visionary of the Shaker movement, but rhythmic chants form a string of songs that blur together in a droning way. Way too long for the approach, albeit bravely anarchic as a sing-songy historical drama. There's talent here, spots are breathtaking, but a whole lot else keeps stunting momentum. Yeah, and I think, I get it. I think the music hit me a little differently. I think some of the songs really stood out to me, specifically the one Seyfried is kind of like singing, very like when she's singing and they're getting like attacked and stuff. Like, I don't know. That stuff was pretty chilling to me.
I mean, I would have nominated at least 2 of these songs over another Diane Warren nomination.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's neither here nor there.
All right. Well, our former co-host, best friend of the show, Abby Olchesi, here's a positive review. So she gave it 4.5 stars and a heart. She said, this was a mesmerizing experience watching at home. I can't wait to see it on a big screen in all its full, feral, strange glory. Yeah, so it looks like, she saw this back in December. So, I think similarly to a lot of people probably struggling to be able to find a way to see this when theaters are a little difficult. I mean, Melania is overshadowing everything, right? Okay. Friend of the show, Kimber Myers, also was positive.
Not if there was any doubt, we are absolutely not reviewing Melania on the show.
Don't worry about that. Kimber Myers gave it 4.5 stars and heart, but no review. And then I think we have plenty more other friends of the show. Friend of the show, Allison Johnson, also gave it 4.5 stars. So what I'm noticing is the women are giving this 4.5 stars. The men so far have all given it 2.5 stars. Coincidence? Probably, because Clint Worthington gave it 4.5 stars and a heart.
Sure.
And a review. Clint Worthington, go ahead.
I mean, to reiterate a previous point, it has at least one big star, which is Amanda Seyfried. Okay. And I mean, the other ones, it's a little debatable to call Tim Blake Nelson a star, but in my heart, he is. So that's at least 2.
Same here. Clint said, my favorite musical this year, reminiscent of the Peter Dinklage Cyrano, in the mournful and reverential tone of its songs, the spasmodic ecstasy of its choreography, the conjoined poles of love and devotion and persecution, and so many other sensations. Amanda Seyfried is incredible here. There's such a sense of religious ecstasy here, even as we see the limits of the Shakers' devotion and dogma in building a safe, secure, satisfied world for its inhabitants. Sure, not getting laid lets you be more productive, but spare a thought for the pleasures of the flesh. Yeah, I think this is pretty nice. I haven't thought about Cyrano since that movie came out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I remember liking the movie, and I haven't really paid it that much thought since.
And then Corey Woodruff, no star rating, but Corey did leave a review for us. He said, a ravishing showcase for actor and filmmaker, and a powerful reminder that it's always nice to remember other people might be trying to go to sleep while you're loudly singing in a place of residence. That's true. Yeah, there's a whole thing with this is like, people hate us. It's like, yeah, because you're so loud. I love the simplicity of that in its own way. Aaron Dicer, friend of the show, gave this one 4 stars, our first 4-star one. And he said, Seyfried out here putting in work, a true explosion of pathos and religious fervor. The movie manages to explore the fullness of cultist extremism through authentic empathy and observation. It dares to let the community and experience speak for itself and all its light and dark places. This is the way to tell human stories of actual humans in all their humanity. So very positive from Aaron. I'm glad to see that. I was expecting Aaron would probably like this, but maybe be more like 3.5. Speaking of, though, Chris Evangelista. I'm gonna make you guess. Our buddy Chris. Do you think let's do the binary, red or black?
I think he gave it 4 stars.
So you already saw it. Okay, 4.5 stars though, and a heart.
Oh, I didn't see it. No, I just was assuming. It seems like his type of film.
Oh, you were guessing. I think you were saying like you already saw it, but no, you were. Oh, there you go. Really close. He's seen it twice now. He saw it twice in November. He gave it 4.5 both times. First review was just incredible, and then he wrote A Place for Everything and Everything in Its Place the second time. So I don't know if he has a review coming, but yeah, nice to see that Chris liked it.
Yeah.
Let's see who else we have here. Isaac Feldberg, he gave it the full 5 stars. I can see that. I think this is definitely an Isaac kind of movie, knowing his sensibilities. He's actually seen the movie 4 times.
Whoa.
And yeah, the first 2 times he gave it 4.5 stars. And then the second 2, he brought it up to 5.
He might as well just be an honorary shaker at that point.
He has multiple reviews here, but looks like he had an interview. Say again?
He's committed to the cause,
Yeah, clearly. I'll read his first review, and it looks like he got to interview Mona Fastvold, so you can check that out probably on his letterbox. But yeah, he said, it's such an ambitious, expressionistic experience of a historical biopic, distinguished by heaving, torrid song and dance sequences that convey the debate between religious stricture and sensual impulse in earnest, rhapsodic, reaching fascination. Amanda Seyfried is so unbelievably great in this. In her every gaze lies blazing proof of Fastvold's theory about the transcendent union between ecstasy and madness that Anne Lee and her congregation sought. Feels so alive and alert and questioning at all times. Loved this. I bet he is very annoyed that this didn't get any Oscar traction, but at the same time, I think Isaac's pretty clear-eyed. He's probably, whatever. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was pretty vocal about it being shut out for cinematography, which I agree with. I thought William Rexler's cinematography, as well as the choreography and the production design, as I mentioned before, were all, award worthy. Though I do want to, have you looked at William Rexler's resume?
The full thing? No.
Okay. This is going to be very fun. Because I saw this, I was watching the movie. I was like, this is a beautiful looking movie, as I expect it to be. Like, what else has William Rexler shot? Want to take any guesses what his other films were?
His other films?
Yeah.
Probably some really bad films, probably from the 2010s.
Yeah, so
that's my guess.
He shot at least one of the segments for movie 43. He is a cinematographer for Chris Rock's I Think I Love My Wife.
What? That's like 2007?
I think. And he's
my gosh,
the main DP for Edward Burns. Like he's like the cinematographer for like most of his films, or his recent films at least. Wow. Like I'm looking, like his like most notable film outside of movie 43 and Testament of Anne Lee is a Joan Didion documentary that Griffin Dunne directed.
Oh yeah, that was from 2017.
And Friends with Kids, the John Hamm film.
That's so random. That's like that's around movie 43 time, or a couple years before that. Wow.
And all these films aren't like bad or anything. It's just like they're not films known for their cinematography.
Yeah, so that's wild.
Or the fact that like
did Mona Fastvold just do the cinematography and they're like, the guild says we need somebody who's available.
I don't know.
I would not besmirch Wexler.
That would be like a PTA kind of thing. Yeah, like I don't know. No, I mean I fully believe it was him. I just like has he just been underutilized this whole time? Like what's going on?
He's been a genius this whole time, and nobody just knew what to do with him. That's all it is.
Well, one person, Edward Burns, he was like, yeah, come on, he's great. Like I am contractually obligated only to make movies about New York, but put him on a boat, he's great.
Friend of the show, Amanda the Jedi, gave it a heart, no stars, but did say, I do this too if it meant not having to sleep with men in the 1700s. God said nah to the sins of the flesh. Sorry. I was thinking that during the movie, where I was like, she just wants to be celibate so she doesn't have to have sex. And it's like, this must be the origin story of so many asexual people, queer people, in general. Let's see here. Emma Sasek, Auntie Emma. Congrats to Emma, by the way, too. She was nominated for Reporter of the Year, I think, in Palm Springs.
Oh, really? That's
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, for her work in the Desert Sun. We stan Auntie Emma, as she's known in our community. So she's reviewed it twice. The first time, she gave it 3 stars. The second time, she gave it 3.5. And since she's Auntie Emma, we're going to do a little bit of both. She's earned it. She worked hard this year. She said at first, this was a tough one to get through. I was already at a disadvantage with the religious aspect of the film. I don't know anything about the Shakers or what they're about, and I did not find this film very compelling in that aspect. While I thought Amanda Seyfried was very good, incredible voice, and she fully gives her whole body and soul into this performance, the character of Anne Lee never really pulled me in. The film was quite a chore to sit through, especially the second half in America, but Mona Fastvold's direction is strong. Some of the shots are incredible, and the dancing and singing portions were very effective. One note on that, I know about the Shakers. Like we learned about them in school. I know Emma grew up in Europe, I think. And so I would understand why she doesn't like know much about them. At the same time, like I know what the Shakers are, but I didn't know like a lot of this lore. So I felt like for me at least, that wasn't like, I don't know if that's something that affected how much I liked the film, just because like maybe because I did have that context, I didn't think about it. I know for you, Will, like stuff like Shakers and Quakers and all that nonsense. I mean, that's Pennsylvania history. You're probably spoon fed from the time you're 6 months old or something, you know.
Yeah,
Us Virginians, we just get a little bit of a taste.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't say I was like super well versed in the world of Shakers. If anything, I'm more well versed in Quakers than Shakers. But yeah, I was not as knowledgeable. But that I felt like to me made it more interesting. I mean, I wasn't deterred by that.
And yeah, in Emma's second review, it's a little bit longer. She kind of reiterates it, but she did bump it up to 3.5 stars. And she added here, she said, it's hard not to compare this film to The Brutalist, not only because it's the same team, but also because both films are portraits of immigrants who experience hardships in America. However, I find The Brutalist to be a far more engaging and emotional film than this one. I was so much more invested in Laszlo's journey than Anne's. I'm not really compelled by Anne as a character overall. I don't ultimately care if she succeeds or not, which isn't what you'd hope for when it comes to a movie like this. I'm with Emma. I think this is where I stand. I think especially when you compare to The Brutalist, I think that's the fundamental thing for me is that there's a disconnect because I love the performance Seyfried is giving. I didn't really care about Anne in this either. I cared more about Lewis Pullman's character, weirdly enough. I didn't care about Chris Abbott's character. I didn't care about Thomas and Mackenzie's. I think Pullman was the only one where I felt like the psychological complexity of the character pulled me in. Like I was emotionally invested because he was just a little bit more, I don't know, he just felt totally dimensional to me in a way that I didn't feel like Anne was that dimensional. I feel like we're always held back from her in some kind of specific way. And like there's so much of an intrigue and a mystique. It kind of reminded me of Bernadetta, that like gay nun movie thing where you remember that one? Benedetta?
Yeah, the Paul Verhoeven film. I like
Benedetta,
I would say that was the better film of these two, but I like both
a
lot.
I think what it is it's like it's a similar kind of story. Obviously it's different because she was, queer and all of that. So it's like well, not that Anne Lee wouldn't have been queer, but it's more explicitly like, affair with a woman and all that stuff. But I think what makes it more like well-rounded to me as a character is I felt like I could see the glimpses of like the conflict and the psychological conflict. And here I felt like the movie just, again, it papers over so much characterization with narration that I think ends up muting so much of like Anne Lee. And so when the Lewis Pullman stuff happens on screen, there isn't much narration. It's just letting that stuff breathe. And I can like think for myself of like, what's going on with this guy? Like, why is he making these choices? I don't know.
I get what you're saying. And that may also be part of the reason why I prefer The Brutalist, because The Brutalist is much more of a like direct character piece where you're really like following Adrian Brody's character through an arc and all this stuff. Yeah. And you're with him all the way, even, right there with him when he's in Staten Island, on seeing the Statue of Liberty and stuff, as opposed to this, where it's deliberately with the narration stuff, like more about like, who is Anne Lee? And it's like, even like the filmmakers are like trying to like kind of probe her as the movies go along and trying to figure out like what makes her tick and stuff. And I think it's interesting, but it also doesn't really feel as definitive. Like you don't get as clear of an idea of her in a way that like, it feels like they're more comfortable like exploring and detailing Lewis Pullman's character. And I guess in comparison to like Bernadette, that's a much more explicit film than this one. Like that's a film that's like entirely liberated and, it's unabashed, and it's Paul Verhoeven. And this is a little bit more, chaste in many respects, comparatively. And I can see why that may not be as resonant ultimately.
It was Benedetta. I know I was kind of fudging Bernadette. Yeah, I think I was thinking of Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Benedetta?
Where'd you go, Benedetta? into the rectory. Yeah. Then lastly, we have friend of the show, Alex Billington, 4.5 stars and a heart. And he said, "How can anyone watch this and not think this is astounding? Amanda Seyfried absolutely deserves the Oscar and every other award. Still in awe of her as Anne Lee. Needs to be stated again, this film is not about religion or a cult. It's a ravishing story of freedom and feminism and equality, and how Anne Lee's desire to create a utopian world of equality and simplicity, at least for her few followers, was rejected by humanity, aka other people." So that means it's about religion, Alex. And ultimately, how there really is no real freedom of religion in the sense of religion as a fervent desire to create and live your life in your own way, on your own terms, and believe in a set of rules and notions that are godly to you, whatever that may mean. I mean, but yeah, it is like all of those things mean the movie's about religion and it's about a cult.
I think Alex is trying to say it's more than just religion, but he misspoke and said it's not just religion. So
I think, yeah, maybe it's because I think that's what the movie is examining. It's how religious communities form. It's how community in general tends to fuel itself. And that is a commentary. It's an examination of religion. I think that's a really cool thing about the movie and what it tries to get into. But anyway, no need for me to get all bent out of shape. That's going to do it for our review of The Testament of An Lee. Will, we have 163 reviews counted on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know what the score is? What's your guess?
I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like, it's a type of film that it seems a little bit more divisive, but I think critics, at least compared to like the user score, is going to be more favorable. So I'm going to say this is actually like an 82%.
It's a little higher. It's a little higher. It's still in the 80s. So I'm going to give you one more guess. So somewhere between 83 and 89.
86?
It's a little higher. 88. Will, your faith, you need to increase your faith a few more points. And then the popcorn meter, aka the audience score, we have 100 plus verified ratings. Not a lot. So it could be anything, really. What do you think?
Unfortunately, my faith in general audiences for a film like this is pretty low. So I'm going to say 58%.
It's also in the 80s.
Oh, wow. Right on.
Yeah, which is great. I'll give you one more shot. Somewhere between 80 and 89. What do you think?
84?
Very close. Okay, you got close there. 83.
Okay.
So yeah, that's The Testament of An Lee. The Oscars sure didn't look at Rotten Tomatoes, that's for sure. Thank you as always for listening to Thank God for Movies. And we'll be back hopefully soon. I know there's plenty of like new releases, stuff I think Send Help is the big one that you and I will probably talk about at some point soon. Hopefully. Yeah, I think 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple is the other one that like kind of up in the air in terms of like, can I see that in time? Like I'd have to watch the other 28 Years Later. I'd have to do a bunch of stuff. I want to skip Mercy. I don't want to watch that movie.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
I just, I don't want to put myself through that. Shelter is the one where I'm kind of like morbidly curious. I know you said you saw it. And so like, I have it on the list of things, I guess. There's another movie out called The Moment, or it's going to be out next week.
Charlie XCX film.
Yeah. It's like kind of like if you look at the poster, it looks like the Brat kind of thing. There is that. It's supposed to be like a comedic drama music kind of movie. Yeah. It could be terrible. I don't know, but
it's one of 3 Charlie XCX films at Sundance this year. And I heard it's like right down the middle of them.
We already got Alone Together. Why do we need so many movies around this person? I mean, good for her, I guess, but it seems like a lot.
That was a documentary, right?
Yeah, it was. It was okay.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
All right, but that'll do it for Thank God for Movies. Well, we're saying send help when it comes to our logo competition. We'll try to post the contenders. We'll narrow it down a little bit probably. We'll try to post it on social media so you can weigh in, and we'll try to do the math. I think we'll also deliberate on what our favorites are as well. And thank you again to everybody who wrote in, and thank you for listening all the way to the end of the episode. You're really nice. And if you like us that much, why not give us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts? That would be super nice too. That would make us really happy. And you can also email us if you have anything to say, including the logo competition thing, cinemaholicspodcast@gmail.com. We'll hopefully have a new email for that pretty soon. And yeah, that's it. From the Internet California, I'm John Negroni.
And for the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Will Ashton. If you heard some singing there, I accidentally put on Matt's Instagram video where he was pleading to watch the Muppet Show. So I guess I'll promote that as well.
I told Matt.
Oh yeah, I was screaming for it too, but I didn't tell him. So he'll find out if he listens to this.
Well, he asked because I told him and he was like, oh, could you like tell me like how long it is and stuff? Like he was kind of curious. And so that's another thing. Well, I know it's a TV thing, so you're probably a little like,
oh, I'm going to watch it, at least for Matt's sake. I mean, I love the Muppets. I want to watch it.
We should, what I'm saying is that we should, I don't know, thank God for the Muppets. Special bonus episode with Matt Sarfini.
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought you were talking like a spin-off podcast. Well, let's deliberate on that later. Bye, everybody.
You're right. Well, see you next time.